A series of powerful winter storms is set to sweep across the United States this week, bringing heavy snow, ice, and dangerous travel conditions to over 200 million people in 40 states. In today's forecast, we'll break down the triple threat of winter storms poised to impact the United States, highlighting the regions facing the most severe weather and what to expect in the coming days. Welcome back to your weather update. I'm Will, and today we have a major weather event unfolding across the United States. Not just one, but three separate winter storms are lining up, set to impact millions of Americans over the next several days. Let's start by looking at what's happening right now across the country. The first system is already ramping up in the Central Plains, gathering energy as it pushes toward the Midwest. This storm is expected to bring heavy snowfall and strong winds, making travel extremely difficult in multiple states. But that's just the beginning. Right behind it, a second storm is forming over the Rockies and Southern Plains. This one is expected to intensify as it moves eastward, potentially bringing a dangerous mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain to a much larger area. And as if that wasn't enough, a third system is already showing signs of development further out in the Pacific, which could become a major winter storm by the end of the week. Now, let's take a closer look at the first storm, which is currently making its way across the plains. As of this morning, snowfall is already being reported in parts of Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa, and it's spreading fast. Satellite and radar images show moisture being pulled in from the Gulf of Mexico, fueling this system and allowing it to rapidly intensify as it moves east. By tonight, this storm will be pushing into the Midwest, with snowfall rates expected to reach 1 to 2 inches per hour in some locations. Cities like Omaha, Des Moines, and Minneapolis will start seeing heavier accumulations, and strong winds could lead to blowing and drifting snow, making travel treacherous. Meanwhile, in the South, we're also seeing an area of concern developing along the Gulf Coast. Warm, humid air is clashing with colder air moving in from the north, which could set the stage for severe thunderstorms in parts of Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. Some of these storms could be strong enough to produce damaging winds and even isolated tornadoes, adding to the list of weather threats unfolding across the country. So, to sum it up, the first storm is currently hitting the plains and will intensify as it moves east. A second storm is forming and could bring a dangerous mix of winter weather to the Midwest and Northeast later this week. The South is also in play, with severe weather possible along the Gulf Coast. Now that we've covered the big picture, let's get into the specific hazards this storm is bringing and why it's going to cause major disruptions across multiple states. The first thing we need to talk about is snowfall totals. This storm is producing heavy snow rates as it intensifies, and some areas are already seeing accumulation build up fast. As of this morning, Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa have already picked up a few inches, but the real heavy snowfall is still on the way. As the storm moves into the Midwest and Great Lakes, areas from Chicago to Detroit and Cleveland are expected to see anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow, with isolated areas potentially seeing up to 15 inches. Meanwhile, parts of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Michigan could easily exceed a foot of snow by the time this system moves through. But this isn't just about how much snow is falling, it's about how fast it's falling. Some areas will see snowfall rates of 1 to 2 inches per hour, which means roads will quickly become covered and visibility will be near zero at times. If you're in one of the hardest hit zones, expect whiteout conditions, and for those of you planning to travel, expect delays and possible cancellations at major airports, especially in Chicago, Minneapolis, and Detroit. Now, let's talk about temperatures. Behind this storm, we have a bitter blast of Arctic air surging in from Canada. Cities like Denver, Omaha, and Minneapolis are already feeling the effects, with temperatures dropping into the teens and single digits. And once this cold air moves east, we'll see some of the coldest wind chills of the season. By tonight, wind chills in parts of the Midwest could reach as low as 20 degrees, and those cold temperatures will continue pushing toward the East Coast in the coming days. And speaking of wind, that's another major problem with this system. Strong northwest winds are developing behind the storm, leading to blowing and drifting snow across the Midwest and Great Lakes. Wind gusts of 30 to 40 miles per hour will be common, but in some open areas, especially across the plains and northern Midwest, we could see gusts exceeding 50 miles per hour. That means even after the snow stops falling, wind-driven snow will continue reducing visibility and creating dangerous travel conditions. In some areas, it could take days for roads to be fully cleared. So here's what we're looking at. Heavy snowfall totals exceeding a foot in some areas, blizzard-like conditions due to strong winds and fast snowfall rates, bitter cold air moving in behind the storm with dangerously low wind chills. And this is just the first storm. There's another system right behind this one, and it could bring an even bigger mess to the northeast. Next, we'll break down what's coming for the Midwest and Northeast as the storm tracks eastward. Stay with us. As this storm moves east, the Midwest is about to feel its full force over the next 24 hours. We're expecting intense snowfall, brutal wind chills, and hazardous travel conditions across several states. Let's start with Chicago. By this evening, the storm will be fully engaged, bringing 6 to 10 inches of snow across the metro area, with higher amounts possible in the northwest suburbs. The heaviest snow is expected to fall between 8 p.m. and 3 a.m., making overnight travel nearly impossible. Further north, Milwaukee, Green Bay, and Madison are also in the crosshairs. Snow totals will range from 8 to 12 inches, and with winds gusting 35 to 45 miles per hour, expect blizzard-like conditions at times. Meanwhile, in Detroit and Cleveland, snow will begin later tonight and rapidly intensify overnight. Snowfall rates could hit 1 to 2 inches per hour, and total accumulations will likely range between 8 to 14 inches. The biggest concern here is the wind. Gusts between 30 and 50 miles per hour will create significant blowing and drifting snow, leading to whiteout conditions and the potential for major travel disruptions. Looking farther west, the storm is already wrapping up across Minnesota and Iowa, but Arctic air is rushing in behind it, sending temperatures plummeting. By tomorrow morning, many locations will wake up to temperatures in the single digits, with wind chills dipping to 20 degrees or lower. Now, as this system pushes east, it's going to slam into the northeast next. How much snow is on the way, and could major cities like New York and Boston be in for a winter mess? We'll break it all down in the next section. As this powerful winter storm exits the Midwest, it's about to unleash its full fury on the Northeast. Cities from Washington, D.C. to Boston and up through New England are in for a major winter weather event with heavy snow, strong winds, and even coastal flooding concerns. Let's start with New York City. Snow will begin in the early morning hours and rapidly intensify by mid-morning. The heaviest snowfall rates, up to 2 inches per hour, are expected between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m., which means the morning commute is going to be a nightmare. By the time this system exits, the city could be looking at 6 to 10 inches of snow, with even higher amounts to the north and west. Further north into New England, this storm is going to be even more intense. Boston, Worcester, and Hartford are set to receive anywhere from 10 to 15 inches of snow, with localized areas possibly exceeding 1.5 feet. The combination of heavy snow and wind gusts up to 50 miles per hour could create blizzard conditions, making travel extremely dangerous. And it's not just about snow. Along the coastline, from Long Island to Cape Cod and coastal Maine, powerful winds will be pushing ocean water onshore, leading to the potential for coastal flooding and beach erosion. Strong northeasterly winds combined with an incoming high tide cycle could lead to flooded roads and property damage in low-lying coastal areas. Behind the storm, bitter cold air will settle in, locking in dangerous wind chills that could make it feel well below zero in some areas by tomorrow night. So here's the breakdown for the Northeast. New York City can expect 6 to 10 inches of snow, with the heaviest snowfall during the morning hours. Boston and much of New England will likely see 10 to 15 inches, with some areas receiving as much as 18 inches. Coastal flooding is possible from Long Island to Maine. Strong winds up to 50 miles per hour will create whiteout conditions. But here's the kicker, we may not be done yet. Another system is already forming, and it could bring even more winter weather to the Northeast later this week. As this powerful winter storm moves out of the Northeast, you might be thinking, finally, we get a break. But the latest weather models suggest that another major system could be right on its heels, bringing even more winter weather to parts of the country. Let's take a look at what's developing. Right now, a new system is forming over the southern plains, and by midweek, it could begin tracking northeastward, setting up the potential for another round of snow, ice, and high winds across the Midwest and East Coast. If this storm follows the current projected path, we could see snow returning to the Midwest as early as Thursday, with areas from Kansas to Ohio seeing another 3 to 6 inches of fresh accumulation. From there, the system is expected to push into the Northeast by Friday into Saturday, potentially dropping even more snow on already hard-hit cities like Boston, New York, and Philadelphia. But here's the thing, this next system is still several days out, which means the forecast could change. If the storm shifts slightly north, it could pull in warmer air, leading to a messy mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain along the I-95 corridor instead of all snow. If it shifts south, it could bring a winter storm to the mid-Atlantic and even parts of the southeast. One thing is certain, bitter cold air is sticking around. Even without another storm, temperatures are expected to stay well below normal for much of the eastern half of the country, meaning any snow or ice that falls isn't melting anytime soon. So, to sum it up, a new system could bring more snow to the Midwest by Thursday. The Northeast could see another round of wintry weather by Friday into Saturday. Arctic air remains locked in, keeping conditions dangerously cold. We'll be tracking this next potential storm closely, so stay tuned for updates. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the latest forecast. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next update.